Welcome to this podcast series from my book, Leadership Starts With You, A Quest for Leadership Excellence. My name is Whitney Brer, and I'm the author of this business novel. Yeah, that's right. You heard right. It's a novel, it's a story, and quite honestly, it's a journey. It's a journey of Kathleen Battlefield. So I warmly invite you to join Kathleen on her journey of self-exploration and growth. And who knows, maybe it will become your journey as well. In this podcast, we will explore why sometimes people just talk at cross purposes, which then can lead to hurt feelings and frustration. So in chapter 5 of the book, Kathleen learned a lot about different types of communication preferences. 2 of the types she learned about were opposing types of communication preferences, and they're based on the needs of introverts and extroverts. So the question is, introverts and extroverts are terms that most people I meet have come across, but most people I meet actually misunderstand what's behind it. What are we really talking about here? We're talking mainly about 2 things. One, most people I meet are kind of familiar with, and it's the question is, where do people get their energy? Externally, internally. That's interesting, but not the focus of this podcast. The second thing that has to do with introverts and extroverts, I think, is quite fascinating and a little bit sad because it leads often to hurt feelings very unintentionally. And the question that drives the difference between extroverts and introverts is this: how do people prefer to think? How do people prefer to think? So what I mean here, let's start with extroverts. Extroverts we call auditory learners, which means, simply put, they like to hear their own voice. When you ask extroverts a question, they begin talking immediately. They go external and they need to say the words out loud just to process the words inside themselves. So they are auditory learners. When you ask them a question, studies show they speak up immediately. They just begin talking. And what they're saying is not necessarily the answers to the question. It's their ideas about it. It's their thoughts that they're processing. When you ask introverts a question, research shows they they probably go internal and they're quiet for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 3 seconds. That is an eternity for extroverts to wait for them to say something. And so often what happens is extrovert might ask introvert a question and wait like 1.2 seconds and hears nothing. But what's going on is happening inside the introvert's head. And at first they seem unresponsive to the extrovert, and the extrovert gets confused or uncertain and thinks, did that person hear me? And they repeat the question again within a second. And now the introvert is standing there trying to process 2 of the same questions at the same time, is beginning to get frustrated and says nothing as he or she is beginning to think again. And now the extrovert's thinking, why isn't this guy saying anything? And then says, well, maybe he didn't understand the question. Let me repeat it again, just in different words. And they say the same question again, just formulated differently. Now the introvert, internally in his head, is juggling 3 different questions. And thinking, this guy, why does he just give me a chance to think? And the extrovert is thinking, what's going on over there? Is he deaf? Does he not care? Is he disinterested? What is he thinking about? And this is where people get hurt. And one of my phrases I use sometimes in training is, hurt people hurt people. People have been hurt others. And these hurts come from frustration and misunderstanding. More differences about introverts and extroverts. Extroverts, for example, in some of the surveys that have been conducted, they're asked about the word respect. How do you show respect, for example, when you're listening? How do you show or send a signal to someone that you're listening? Now, an extrovert has this habit, the intention is positive, has the habit of finishing the sentence of other people. either to get them to hurry up, which might be the case, but most often it is for them to say, hey, look, I'm listening to you. We're on the same wavelength. I hear you so well, I can finish your sentence for you. Bam! Or if the person is speaking and pauses during the middle of the sentence, then the extrovert, wanting to be helpful, jumps in and says the word he thinks or she thinks that person wants to say. Now, the intention is very positive. And if an extrovert is talking and someone finishes their sentence or fills in with a word, it could very well be perceived that that person is listening, that they're excited, they're energetic, and they want to take part. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. The catch is, if the person that is talking is an introvert and someone finishes their sentence for them, although the intention might be positive, they may get very frustrated or angry and think, how rude. Why doesn't he or she just give me a chance to finish? So I think hurt people hurt people. The intentions are often very positive, but the ways of going about it are very different, and perceptions and needs are very different. So once again, extroverts talk out loud. They need to process their thoughts. They finish the sentences of others to show they're on the same wavelength, that they're communicating, they're listening, they're engaged. And introverts, when asked a question, go internal. They have that conversation in their head. They don't respond verbally immediately. They like to think things over. And they would never dream of finishing someone's sentence for them. They think, that's just rude. And as you think about your communication preferences, are you either extrovert or introvert or vice versa? No. Of course, we have both preferences in us, but like our right and our left hand, we have one that, well, honestly, we prefer most. It feels more comfortable. We use it more often. Now, as you begin to think about people in your life, maybe coworkers, team members, maybe a boss, a manager, a partner at home, friends, family, are you beginning to recognize these communication patterns and preferences? With this knowledge, you begin to recognize what people need, and you can adapt your communication to meet their needs. And perhaps have a lower tendency of pigeonholing someone or labeling them. So if you'd like more tips or tricks to figure this out, concrete examples, there's some charts on pages 244 and 245 of the book, as well as in the separate learning journal. And that information is also found in the book, where you can get the free download and the password as well. I hope you enjoy it. Go out there more receptive and listening to the people around you. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you notice? As you do that, you will begin to grow your life, grow your team, and you grow your business. And remember always, leadership starts with you. See you soon, or hear from you soon, for the final podcast number 8, which is next on the list.